Welcome to our magnificent agents and investors from across the country. Today is Thursday, June 23rd, 2022, and this is All the Leads Mastermind podcast number 323. We've got a really great guest today. Before we go to our guest, Alyssa, you want to remind everybody how to join in on the call?
So if you would like to ask a question, you can either type it in the Zoom chat, or if you would like to ask your question on live, you can also raise your hand using the reactions button. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you can post your comment or your question directly in the comments, and we've got moderators standing by. And just a reminder to please leave yourself muted until or unless you are called on, and we are going to have a great call. Thank you.
All right. So partners and coaches, anything you want to start with, or should we get right to our guest?
Let's jump to Elijah. All
right. Well, I will tease this interview. We have Elijah Castilla. He is an agent in Tennessee. Extraordinary story to share, not because he's done 100 deals or even done everything we told him to do. It's really the results he's got with the effort he's made so far. So he may have the highest conversion rate of all time of everybody we've ever dealt with. So Elijah, if you would, just give everybody a background on yourself and your experience so far, how long you've been with All the Leads, and your experience thus far.
Okay. Jim, hey, I appreciate the opportunity to be here to visit with the community today. I think I've been with All Leads for maybe two and a half years, something like that. The way I got introduced to All Leads was through my coach, through the Mike Ferry organization, Joe Lehman. And Joe Lehman had spoke very highly of you, Jim, very highly of the All Leads community. And he turned me on to it. And initially, right off the bat, when we started, we made the phone calls and did that, but also we just set it up to where it would automatically send out the postcards. We tweaked it a little bit, got it to where it fit what we were wanting to do, and would send them out. And immediately we started to get good feedback, good replies from just the postcards, really. So that the way I got introduced to All Leads is thanks to Coach Joe Lehman. Speaking so highly of you, Jim. I think you two used to coach together from what he told me.
We did many years ago in a previous life.
Yeah. And, so he told me about getting with the program. Now, the biggest win I feel like I've had through your program, we've got some great listings. We actually got a guy that we didn't work with him as the buyer, but we did list the property. It was a nice log cabin on like 30 acres. We sold that, I think, for about $500,000. A gentleman from Dade County, Miami, or Hollywood, Florida, right there in that area, purchased it and moved down here. His son and my son played soccer together, so we got to talk. And he is going through training right now to get his real estate license. He wants to join our team. And again, we didn't work with him on the buyer side, but because it was our listing, so thanks to All Leads, we got to know him. So that's a pretty big win. But now the biggest win, Jim, I feel like we've gotten through the great program, the successful program you're running, is a gentleman I met probably 6 months ago. His son had passed away of cancer. You could tell he was an older gentleman. You could tell he was sad about the loss of his son. He really just wanted to move on, sell the home, and go on. There was a hole in the ceiling, a smell of smoke throughout the house, but it was in a great neighborhood. I knew that when I told him, in the condition it's in, sir, you probably will have to do a few things to get it sold. He said, well, I'd really just kind of want to sell it. Again, we set up our postcard to say that we had investors that would just come in and buy. And I said, well, sir, I think we could find an investor that would be very interested in your property. I think we could probably get you $145,000 for it. I had quickly estimated that the home repaired would probably take about $30,000, and on the market it would sell for about $225,000. So I felt very comfortable telling we could get $145,000. I also felt like when I told him $145,000, I could have said probably $130,000 and got it. But I felt like there was probably, I didn't want to, push the envelope. I didn't want to be greedy. I really did want to help this man. So he said, if I could get 145 for it, I would be very pleased. I said, okay, well, I think we'll give you 145. He said, oh, are you buying it? And I said, yes, sir. I believe at that price, we would buy it. And at that time, he was very grateful that we were willing to buy it, wrote up a contract. Of course, it was still running through some of the probate. So I think it took about 60 days to close on the deal. And just as soon as we closed, we had our a two-man crew come in there and start working on it. Within 3 months, we had it on the market. As everyone on this call knows, at that, that was probably 6 months ago. The market was still doing this. The interest rates hadn't rose yet. So where I had estimated 225 on the resale, it resold for 245.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you put how much did you put into it?
We put around 30,000 into it.
Incredible.
So we made somewhere, not even counting real estate fees, we made somewhere around 60,000.
That's
Elijah, what's your average sales price on a $60,000 profit is pretty good in Tennessee, right?
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah. See, some of the people I had watched and kind of been mentored by in bigger areas like Nashville, we live outside of Nashville about an hour. And we have a county population of about 78,000, city population about 34,000. But some of the bigger players that I had been mentored by out of Nashville that come through that same coaching program of Mike Ferry, some of those guys, they were averaging $10,000, $15,000 a commission. Our average commission here is probably $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 at the most. About $250, $280 is the average sales price right here in this area. And it's went up significantly in the last 2 years. So I'd say $7,500 is our average commission check. That's why I began to look at the investing side as a way of being able to get some pretty big wins. Because to me, $15,000, $20,000 is a lot of money. $50,000, $60,000, that's what I consider a home run.
That's a good month, right?
Yeah, man. And I appreciate you guys. I didn't have that opportunity without you. Thank you.
2 follow-ups, if I may. I don't interrupt you. Were you done? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. No, I was done.
Two follow-ups. Something you said to me that I really resonated with me, and it's something that we teach all the time. You don't wear either hat, and you do what's best for the client. And even in your example there, knowing you were going to buy it, knowing you could have got it cheaper, you still were honest with them. And it's probably not an accident that people trust you that much.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I feel that it's important, integrity. I've got to take me home with me every night. So integrity is very important to me. And I was very upfront with that man, Jim. I told him what I thought it could sell for was 225 fixed up. I let him know what we were going to be probably putting into it. And what I was offering him, I was very comfortable that we would profit. I bet I said that to him at least 2 or 3 times. But again, this man had distanced himself from the home. He did not want to take on any more responsibility. He could have, he just didn't want to. So it was a win-win is the way I felt that deal worked out.
Perfect. And I'm going to throw you to my other coaches. But first, one more question a point I wanted you to share with the group. One of the reasons I said your success is so extraordinary and your conversion rate is phenomenal. You're getting 4 counties from us, and I believe 3 of them average about 5 leads a month. Is that right?
Yeah. We've got 2 that you'll get 12 to 14 every month, and then the rest are very small.
Right. So with the number of leads you're getting and the conversion you're achieving is just phenomenal.
Thank you.
Bruce, I see Anna raising a hand with a question. Do you want to go to her
let me ask a few questions to Elijah here first. I'm curious about your conversion process. Is your process typically on inbound calls to you, or are you guys doing some outbound? And then how long does it take the average PR or administrator that you're dealing with to start to do business with you?
Okay, great question. Really, we follow a pretty simple process. Generally, when they call in, if they call in, then our secretary will take the message. If it's a listing, she'll get it to me. I'm going to call them back. Usually it's just as quick as I can, same day for sure. I'm going to call them back. I'm going to pre-qual them, which is just going through, simple questions, trying to learn what their goals are, learn what they're wanting to achieve. Set the appointment. Usually I'm going to set the appointment for the next day or the day after. So within 48 hours, I'll be at their house. I'm going to run generally a comparative market analysis on their property, email that over to them so they can kind of see what I'm seeing, and also send over our team packets so they'll see how we can best serve them, set the appointment, come in, visit with them.
So it sounds to me like you kind of have a two-stage appointment process.
Yeah.
Do you do that in general with all of your listing appointments?
I had a great tennis coach, and he taught me how to, there was like 3 steps when you play tennis, how to set, pivot, and push the ball forward. It's the same thing in real estate. You got to know your step work. I would actually say I have a 5-step listing process. There's a few things I probably didn't say in between there, but it's the same way every time. And we'll list 90% of the listings we go on. If we get the call and we can get in front of the client, 90% of the time we're going to get those listings.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Chuck, do you or Tim have any questions?
Yeah, I've got one particular question. So when you're sending out direct mail, what does that piece look like, and what is your message to the personal representative?
Okay, great question. And we definitely do direct mail. Now with all leads, we have customized that. We touched that one time in the very beginning. And to be honest with you, I don't really know. We probably need to go back and look at that and tweak it a little bit. But the overall was, we know people that can come in and help do repairs, clean up. One of the houses, Chuck, we were able to list recently and sold. When we went in there, it definitely had the smell of death in it. I mean, it smelled rough. It was in a great location in downtown Cookeville, competing against very strong agents that wanted to list that home. But when we went in there, it smelled horrible. And the guy was from Indiana, so it was probably a 4 or 5 hour drive for him to come to his mother's old home. And while we were there, he began to ask me those questions. Do you have somebody that can come in and clean it out? I've never seen more books in a house. I mean, the house there was a pack rat home. So I introduced him to Jimmy Delaney. Jimmy Delaney set an appointment with him, came in, and he cleaned out everything in that home. Got a big dumpster, filled that thing up. And he called me back. I knew he was talking to a couple other agents. And if I could have found an investor for it, I would have. But we couldn't get $200,000 for it with all that stuff in it. After we got all of it out, I'd suggested listing it at $225 to the gentleman. And he said, I said, so sir, what would you like to list this at? He said, well, let's go with the $225. I said, well, now that you've got it all out, I think we could do $245. Chuck, we got a full price offer on that property the same day. So he made more money than he had anticipated. And it was because in our write-up, we tell them that we have people that can come do that kind of work, clean out houses, people that can help do, even staging, and then also investors that are ready to come make cash offers.
So your initial brand positioning was you as a realtor, your realty business, you position yourself, by the way, and we help people that are settling in a state with these types of things.
Yes, and I probably am not strong enough on the fact that I would be a potential buyer. I usually just kind of leave it as we have investors. And obviously, I'm going to pick over it first as an investor. Like Jim said, there's 2 caps. And sometimes you're walking a little bit of a fine line right there. But honestly, I don't mind to walk it if I feel like that's what the client or the customer wants. But I've got to feel that, you've got to understand that they don't want somebody to come in there and get the best buy either.
Yeah, and I really like that strategy and approach. Basically saying we have cash buyers or investors available to purchase if that's what is going to help you achieve your goals with settling the estate. And then it gives you the opportunity to say, just as you described, I think that was an excellent case study from a standpoint of being able to say, yeah, I think I can give you 145. Now, wait a second, you would buy it? And that's a perfect example, because many of the folks that I'll be coaching through a strategy call here at All the Leads, et cetera, some of them are curious about, well, how do I change hats and go from a low ball offer to, what the CMA would say? And I think that's a great case in point, that you let them define what meets their needs. And if that works for you, and or, if you wanted to negotiate, you could, but again, pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. So, I mean, from that standpoint, you don't want to be greedy. You're still helping people. It's an easier win-win. And I'd much rather have a nice, smooth, easy transaction, just like you described. So again, gold star.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. So Elijah, is there anything else in your process that that you follow that you think might be good for some of our audience? I know we've got a couple of hands up. I'm assuming we've got some questions for you, but before we let a couple of folks answer, I want to see if you have anything that you think you should share.
Well, and I appreciate the question, sir. First thing that comes to mind is, though, really and truly, you should have some investors. And investors are great buyers for this product. A lot of these people that are in our area, their family members don't even live in the area anymore. So it's a great way to network with investors. Obviously, an investor will come in, fix it up, and then you get to resell it as well. So it's a great way of building relationships with people who have bigger pockets, in my opinion. And that's about it.
Excellent.
So as, if I may, to expand on that, now as you're seeing, changes in the market linked to affordability and interest rates, et cetera, right? We're kind of in that, we don't know exactly the direction it's going. We know which direction it's going. We don't know exactly where it's going to land in each local market. But do you see the possibility, or have you looked into maybe now might be a switch to selling to a buy, fix, and sell investor, or taking on that project yourself, to maybe looking into adding to your portfolio situation? Is that something that you have in your investing strategy?
For sure, if I had a strategy in the market like that, I would definitely, Chuck, be looking into that. Personally, we've got several rentals, and I don't think I want any more of those, but man, you could have definitely got some good buys on rentals in this market. That one I gave 145 for, put 30 in, 175. We could have probably got $1,200-$1,300 a month in our area. Obviously, it would have more than paid for itself. So I guess if I had, but obviously the quicker turns is to fix it up and flip it. So instead of holding for the long term, I've been thinking fix and flip. I don't personally want any more rentals, but if I did, yes, this would be a great opportunity for those.
So I think maybe just reflecting on that, it does widen your investor pool of buyers, because there are some folks that are more buy and hold focused compared to a quick turn, et cetera.
Yeah, and I guess you're right. I'm probably always looking for the flipper because they're going to relist it with me, and we're going to get to work with them again. But obviously, as the market changes, maybe I should begin to look for the guy who's going to rent it long term. Maybe 5 years he'll sell it. So yeah, I agree with that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and if you want to chat for 15-20 minutes, schedule time on my calendar, we can dig into that deeper, because I got some ideas.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Good. All right. Hey, let's jump over to Bill Gross. Bill's been a long time subscriber and friend of ours, and it looks like Bill's got some comments or questions here. Bill, you're on mute. Bill.
Oh, Bill.
Bill. Well, we know that Bill is legit. Let me let everyone know before Bill unmutes himself and asks his question. And I know Tim has something to say in a moment as well. If you have your hand raised,
have to unmute him.
There we go.
I think we have to unmute him.
Okay. Yeah, if you have your hand raised and want to say something, we are going, because of the hack, we're going to ask you to privately chat the ATL marketing team or myself, so that we know that you're legitimate. If I don't know you personally and I can't see your face, we may not call on you. I just want to make sure that that we're calling on only legitimate questions and subscribers or folks that are in this business. So Allison, if you would send us a private message let us know, give us a preview of your question. We'll call on you. Same goes for everyone on here. But Bill, go right ahead with your question.
Yeah, and I wasn't able to unmute. I was trying to signal to you to unmute me. And I'm not the hacker, by the way. I'm not the person with those chats, just in case you're wondering who that is.
Not a problem, buddy.
Hey, Elijah, first, congratulations on your tremendous success. I guess I have two questions if I'm allowed to. Number one would be, I know you mentioned your Mike Ferry coach, which I think presumes that you're prospecting regularly as well. Mm-hmm. Do you make phone calls, yet you only have an X number of probate leads, not enough to do 3 hours a day? Do you prospect as well and fit this in, or how do you work in the probate leads with your other prospecting activities?
Great question, Bill. Again, I probably put that on autopilot a little bit with all through all the leads, and from there began to even try to build the relationships with the attorneys that were working with them. At this time, Bill, our strategy is we have a great new team member who is investor friendly, and we're beginning to work him in on making those phone calls. So he'll be the direct prospector, and I've told him to please keep me in mind as an investor.
Oh, shoot. Elijah, you're freezing up on us a little bit there.
Right, we froze up for just a minute. We lost you at investor. You said something about investor.
Yeah, Tom Ramey is one of our new team members, and he is going to be doing those calls, and he is investor friendly. He has friends that are investors. So I've told him to please keep me in mind if he goes to a home that is investor friendly. I want to still be in his consideration as somebody that will buy those properties. But Bill, to answer your question, that's our strategy today. Somebody else is making those phone calls.
I think the other question is, and I know I came from the Mike Ferry system as well. I would say I'm a reformed Mike Ferry coached agent in that you can come into this business that way, to be very transaction focused. And probate seems to be, at least my experience, way more successful when you're more relationship focused. And I find other agents have struggled with that transition. How have you managed to focus on the relationships at the same time? Maybe that was your initial training.
Yeah, man, Bill, that's a fantastic question, and definitely something I've had to become way more aware of. Of course, I was born and raised in Tennessee. I'm a country boy, born and bred. The reason why you see me with suit and tie on today is I married a woman that moved here from Manchester in England. And so she's been working now on trying to straighten up this old country boy for about 12 or 13 years. I think when you're in the city and bigger metropolitan areas, people are by nature way more transactional. And I think I had to grow in that area. So Mike Ferry helped me shorten up my speech, get to things quicker. There's pluses to it. I went for about 2 years where I probably was just like a robot. I was getting contracts signed left and right, but there was nothing that felt natural about it, nothing that felt, genuine. But I had to probably kind of go in that cocoon and then come back out. So today I am who I am. I'm going to sit down and have conversations with people. We're building clients for life. Some of them are like family. But so I think I understand what you're saying. And yes, I've had to move back into the relational and less transactional. But obviously, I feel like there's a balance in that. As a real estate professional, I think there's a balance.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you, man.
Outstanding. All right. Any other questions for Elijah? If not, why don't let's go to Cameron really quick, and then Tim has something he wants to say as well. Cameron, I'm working on unmuting you. There we go.
You hear me okay? So I have an incredibly specific hypothetical for you, Elijah. Let's say you got a text response last Friday, a week ago tomorrow, saying, all right, we want a list. My sister's living in the house. She's going to have surgery on the 22nd. And I will, we're ready to list. And I had a conversation with him. This person had a conversation with him. Couldn't get into the house, couldn't meet with him. And the person is scared to death that he's going to end up talking to family. They're going to have a realtor and I'm going to lose it. What would you do in that situation?
Okay, great question, Cameron. Is the person that you're speaking to, are they the executor of the estate?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Could you send it over for electronic approval and just get the paperwork out of the way?
He didn't want to.
Didn't want to do that.
So I sent him a copy. I said, well, I can send you a copy you can review. So I sent him a PDF of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, you know, and a little bit of that may be just the approach, but look, I know I can't get into the home right now. You obviously still got some siblings in there that are, you know, maybe fighting the idea of selling, but realistically, why don't we just go ahead and get the paperwork over to you, let you look at that, go ahead and approve it electronically. And then that way I can start going ahead and letting my investors know about it. You know, I mean, maybe try a couple approaches, but like you say, I'm with you. Let's get it pinned down, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was just curious. I was having a chat with that gentleman earlier, and I was like, man, I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose it. Anyhow, thanks, Elijah.
Yeah, well, you just keep asking them questions too, Cameron. Just keep that connection with them. Keep asking them questions, and draw out of them how they want to go about it. But you'll get that. Just stick with them.
Right on. Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So Elijah, Kim asked on Facebook. She asked if you'd mind sharing some of the information you put on your postcards. And I'm going to actually clarify that question a little bit. Do you go detailed, or do you keep it generic, or somewhere in the middle?
Okay. So again, I must apologize because my wife and I did those right off the bat, never touched them again. So I would say this, that it's probably pretty generic. It is generic. We did a one size fits all. And we've just continued to send those out. Now it's something that 2.5 years ago we began doing. We need to go back and relook at it. But those postcards have got us the majority of the opportunities that we've gotten was through the postcards. So even though it may be a little generic, it still works. And we send them out twice. We had somebody call in the other day and said, hey, you know, do you mind to quit sending postcards? Our child's passed away. You know, that kind of response. And so it was a simple thing to just go in there and stop it from coming. But we knew they were going to go out 2 times total anyhow. Mm-hmm. We should probably set that up for 5 times.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. And occasionally, if you do one too many, someone will tell you, and you can easily remove. They don't have any problem telling you if they don't want your postcards anymore or your letters anymore.
And that's not a problem. But like really, that's only happened 1 time. So it's not a problem if they do. We can go in there and do it, turn it off. But to answer that question, it is generic. It is, again, trying to entice them to look at us as a opportunity to list or bring an investor. And then thirdly, we're not doing it enough. We should be doing it 5 times, not 2. That's probably something I would change.
And Elijah, if you have any more time, we have another question that came direct to me. What do you find the best way is to create relationships with the attorneys that you work with? Yeah, and you know, again, I think that if you could just directly go in and visit them, maybe bring them some form of a small token of appreciation, a gift, and just let them know that you are set up for probate. This is something that you want to specialize in, and you're looking for opportunities to grow in that. And even asking, just like with Cameron, just asking them questions that will help them understand that you want to work for them. You want to help them in that process. So how can I help you? Amazing. Mm-hmm. Amazing. Do we have any other questions?
Real quick, I was just going to, on the mailing issue, Elijah, I was going to make a comment. I 100% agree with you. Go from 2 to 5 or 10 mailings. On 5 leads, you're not going to blow a bunch on postage for sure. Right. So, right. And the second thing I want to make you aware of, you might not be, that we do have some, with that low of a lead count, we have 3 trifold brochures. Bruce is working on a magazine. You could, maybe for your leads, or possibly even for everybody, you may want to send out a higher quality mailing your first or second or third time. Yeah, my wife would definitely agree with you on that too. So I agree. That quality goes a long way with people. Perfect. Mm-hmm.
Outstanding.
Tim had something?
Paul had something. Paul, if you'd unmute yourself. White Simpson also just joined. He'd asked a question on Facebook when the Zoom was locked. So White, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand and ask live if you would. But Paul, go ahead.
Sure. Been making a bunch of these calls lately and kind of getting stuck on the "we're all set" objection. And it would be just, we're all set, hang up, or we're all set. And then, and so just wondering, how we can handle that, or what approach we can change to, reduce that response.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Elijah, do you have a response to that? I know I do. You're the guest, though.
Yeah, and thank you again. I think the only thing you can do with that is just ask another question. What's all set mean to you, or just another question to them, and let them answer. That's my thought. Bruce, what are you thinking?
Well, I like to kind of follow the follow-up questions. Perfect. Ask another question. I like to follow the never split the difference model, where you label what they've said. So we want to go ahead and validate that. Hey, awesome. Or hey, that I get that a lot. It sounds to me like blank. It sounds to me like you have a lot of the process covered, and get them back on your side, with some version of them saying, yes, that's right. Kind of acknowledging that what you repeated back to them is what they meant. And at that point, I would roll into another question. So are you, I guess you have a great attorney that's handling everything for you, or go ahead and make an assumption about that person. A lot of times I like to call that an empathic statement. And it's not exuding empathy. That's not why I call it that. It's making an assumption about where they are in the process, but make it as a statement sometimes instead of a question. People are very happy to correct you if you're wrong. Very happy. A lot of times they would rather correct you if you're wrong than answer a question at times. So I would make an assumption about where they are, make that as a statement, and then let them either correct or affirm what you've said. And a lot of times you'll get information about their situation. At that point, you can go in and ask for permission to maybe make a proposal and move a little bit further into the conversation.
So that assumption would be something like, oh, so you've already found a buyer for your home.
That could be a good assumption. Yep. Hey, I assume you have somebody that's already cleaned the house out, or I assume your attorney has already connected you with the team to set up your estate sale. I mean, there's a million different assumptions that you could make about a "we're all set" statement that they've made. Make that assumption, make that statement, and they're going to correct you if they haven't done whatever it is. And my bet is that's just a pattern that they're falling into that they think is going to get you off of the phone. They probably don't have nearly as much done as they're letting on, or nearly as much done as they need. And they might not know that they're about to need those things. So make an assumption about the process that you don't think that they've taken care of yet. And a lot of times someone will turn around and they'll go, oh, no, I didn't know that you did that. I thought you were just calling to buy the house, or I thought you were just calling to connect me with this attorney. So make an assumption somewhere along the lines of what you think that they have not done yet.
Something. Bruce, my favorite one, Paul, was when I was prospecting was, oh, so you've already taken care of changing your insurance? And just shut up. Very few people bother to go from owner occupied to vacant house insurance, and they're putting themselves at risk if something were to happen. And I don't think I ever had anybody say, yeah, I already took care of that. If you want a surefire one, that's a good one.
Yep.
Great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. Outstanding. All right. Elijah, how are you on time? I know you're a busy guy.
I'm here as long as I'm needed. And
hey, Elijah, I want to ask a quick question, and this is your call. We're getting a lot of folks that are asking about the content of your postcard, and I appreciate your candid answer, which is you said it and just sort of did a set and forget, and that's great. If you don't have any objection to this, would you mind if anyone has a particular interest in potentially putting out the same type of postcard mailing that you're doing in their market, since you kind of use the generic version? Would you mind if we told everybody to contact our support MIS department, and we'll share with them what you did? Is that okay with you?
Perfect.
Okay, so folks, what we'll do, if you have an interest in since we're doing the mailing, if you have any interest at all in doing this, we'll be glad to work with you. Just contact your MIS and we'll be happy to work with you. Send a request in to support@alltheleads.com and we'll get back with you and we'll share with you what Elijah did. And obviously we can customize it for your market as well. And we'll be happy to work with you.
Yep. Let's go to Eric Basket here. Eric, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
All right. So one of the challenges I've been running into is these people are getting inundated with investors really preaching how it's just an easier sale and that they don't have to pay any fees and all this other stuff. But as you know, what comes with that is lower sales price. So I'm trying to overcome some of that. I've been sending out some CMAs via screen capture and stuff like that. Any other artillery that I should be adding to that to try to get them on as a client?
I think if you're running into, and I apologize, guys, if anyone else was about to chime in, so I'll make mine quick. If you're running into people that are constantly getting mail or calls from investors, and we have a lot of investors here, we love you guys. So I don't want to load your competition up with ammo against you, but I would go ahead in a piece of my marketing and speak to the potential detriment of going with an investor. I would also speak in that piece of marketing to the detriment of going with an inexperienced, non-probate focused realtor. I have a letter that was going out that would say, look, there are two mistakes that you want to avoid if you're going to sell an inherited property. One would be selling to a lowball investor that doesn't have your best interest at heart. And the other is going to a realtor that might have your interest at heart, but has no experience with your situation. You're typically going to lose time and money either way. Here's my process. Call me here. And so I would speak to those two, and I'd probably speak to those few things on the phone as well as I'm prospecting.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. That's a good tips that I need to start focusing on those conversations. I appreciate it.
Elijah, do you have anything? Chuck, do you have anything?
Great, Bruce. That's great.
Yeah, I have something. I mean, from that standpoint, I really think, and especially as the market is continuing to change and evolve from where we've been to where we're headed, which is the unknown at this point, it would be very, very smart for agents to offer different types of options to the potential sellers that can include those investor type clients. If that's the direction that they want to go, it's something that you have vetted investors that are in your network, in your client base, that you can also be able to give them that smooth transition and be able to help them with the rest of the strategy for them to settle the estate. Just as Elijah had described, cleaning out the house and making changes and stepping through that process may change what the opportunity is for them to deposit into HIP National Bank once they go through the transaction. So I think really being able to describe and defining what that level of service and what options you have available to them is going to be really, really important for agents that are looking to overcome that particular objection. And I'd be happy to sit down and discuss a bit more of that, through any of the strategy coaching calls. But I think Elijah in his story was able to describe how having those options presented to the seller gives them more confidence in your ability to, as Bruce said, handle that probate specific situation versus another agent or an investor, which really is just looking at dollar signs.
Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. White Simpson asked on Facebook, and White's here. If you have a follow-up to this, White, you can unmute yourself. But before White jumped into the Zoom, he'd asked Elijah, how many probate transactions are you closing on an average year? What's that conversion rate look like for you? You may have answered that earlier, but if you would add some clarity there.
Yeah. Again, without really any effort, just the postcards for probably the last year and a half, we're getting, on average, probably 5 or 6 a year. So like every other month, we're probably getting something. Currently, we're getting opportunities through some of the clients we've served, coming back and asking us to sell properties that have joined their properties as well. So we've gotten some referrals from that as well. But again, that's just putting it on cruise control, which is easy to do. But if we actually were making those phone calls directly, I think we would see that number double or triple.
Mm-hmm. Yep. White, do you have a follow-up question?
Well, the only question I've got, how many leads do you get a month?
Probably about 30.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. All right. So another question that we had come in is, so we've got someone that's new, been licensed for about 7 years. They asked, what's the best way to learn about probate? This is really good since this is a podcast and also a YouTube video that's going to go out. If you are new and maybe you weren't joining here, or you're on this Zoom and you're new, the best way to go about learning the entire probate process is probably going to be on our YouTube channel. So you guys can look up All the Leads on YouTube, subscribe. We have many hundreds, probably thousands of videos with these mastermind calls, with role play calls, with live trainings that we've done to really dig in and learn a lot about the probate process. We also teach a free class for everybody once a month called Probate Foundations at the beginning of each month on the first Wednesday. You can register for that and join by just going to alltheleads.com. It is now free for everyone. It used to be paid for non-subscribers. So I'm going to encourage everyone to jump there. We try to give you tons of different resources for learning the probate process and really learning, even if you're a realtor and an investor and you have questions that aren't specifically probate related, divorce, pre-probate, really any transition type of business that you might work where you're specifically working with have to sellers. Not want to sellers, but have to sellers, and you want to be the person to get in front of them, we teach it. But go to All the Leads YouTube channel. You can also look this up on any podcast platform that you like to listen to. Look up All the Leads, and all the same videos and content is on podcast format as well. Anything added? I know we've got some other questions that I have to scroll through. Anybody else have anything that you guys need to add as a comment or a question?
Yep.
Yeah,
so,
go ahead.
So if you look at that calculation, Elijah, right? If you did 6 deals in the last 12 months at an average of 30 lead or 30 person list every single month, you're trending, 1 and 2/3% conversion rate, which is exactly right in line with what Bruce and I are consistently teaching to subscribers, that you should expect on average, if you're taking an average approach, to be between 1 to 3%. It falls smack in the middle of that. And as we also discussed, increasing your efforts and adding additional components to your strategy, like you discussed, maybe doubling the amount of direct mail, or et cetera, there are ways to increase that conversion percentage, just as you described. So it falls right in line with what we're teaching here at the ATL system.
That's perfect. 90 contacts to do 1 deal. I mean, and that's through postcards. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That ain't bad at all. I'll take that. So
how do you, there was one question in the chat where they were talking about conversion for maybe properties that are located in the city, or people that are located in more of a city or town environment versus rural environment. Do you may not have your data refined or your statistics on your closings, but do you have a gut feel for types of response that you get from a city area versus a rural area, or it's inconsequential to you?
Yeah, again, for me, we're in a pretty rural area. And so you got a lot of people that maybe their parents, they grew up in the home and they left. Maybe they went to a big city, and this is the first time they've had to come back and establish settling the estate. So, I think that, again, for us, it's just kind of getting to know the disc styles when you're talking to people, be able to try to read people pretty quickly. take a relaxed approach and always be for the client. I don't care where you're from. I think if that's the heart, you're going to do pretty good.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Love it. Love it.
Yeah. So another question that had come in, well, not another question, the same question. I was going to share with everyone that depending on what kind of environment you are, the probate process does speed up or slow down. There are certain big cities in California where it might take 15, 18 months to get through probate. And then there are smaller towns in Tennessee, or the town that I grew up in the mountains of Virginia, that you go through probate in 3 months, it's wrapped up, you're done. People do frequently sell the house before they get through probate. It's usually maybe somewhere around that halfway, 1/3 to 1/2 mark of the probate process when most start selling a house. So if you're in a rural area and you're sending out 2 postcards and you might make 1 phone call, that has a good chance of having success in an area like yours if it's rural, because they're going to be done with probate in 3 or 4 months and probably selling a house around month 2. If you're in a city environment where it takes a year to get through probate, they're going to be through probate in 12 months and might be selling the house at month 4, 5, or 6. So if you are in a faster paced environment that takes longer because of lifestyle to go through that process, I want you guys to have a campaign that lasts longer. I want you to be a little bit more patient with your leads and not expect an immediate call, come list my house on mailing number 1. That might take that 4th or 5th mailing for you guys to work. And then there's a big spectrum in between those 2 extremes. So match your mailing content and your mailing process and your phone call and follow-up process to the market that you're in. And you'll be set.
Hey, Bruce, while you're looking at what's coming up, I'll comment quickly on the Hotsfeld asked the question in regard to the email side of the lead list, and that they're sending emails out and coming back as defunct addresses. So be aware that the information that we give you in the data we return back to you is the data that appears on what we receive. So we're doing the best job that we can to give you the addresses and the info that get sent to us and get pulled in as we do our research. We don't vouch for it. We don't say it's a good address, and so you can't do any more than we're doing. We have certainly heard from people who have had some successes in doing that. And Chuck also pointed out that I think on the last 3 podcasts, we've also covered a lot in regard to the do not call list and all that sort of stuff. So I won't be labored here because we're going to run out of time. But I think it's important to know that, or it's good for you, in fact, that you are pursuing all the avenues that are there. And this is a numbers game. The more touches and more contacts you make, the more likely you are to have successes. So you're doing the right thing. Just keep on trucking.
Yep. So Allison asked if there was a probate certification that you should get. The answer to that is it depends. That's a very lawyer-esque answer to give. It depends. I personally have found through 19 years of experience in the real estate business that most consumers don't always know what certifications mean. They just see abbreviations and initials after a name. And I've often said the one that they actually recognize is the word broker. With that said, there are definitely certifications that are going to help you and could make a difference with the consumer that you're facing. We're working on a certification program inside of the All the Leads platform. There is the probate expert. What's the certification? CPE, Certified Probate Expert certification. That's really good. The foundation series that we teach inside of All the Leads does not come with a certification as of today, but it's really, really high level information that you're going to get. So if you are looking for a certification to promote to the public, maybe go with the CPE. If you're looking for a certification for your information, come through and take the trainings that we offer here, because it's going to really equip you with what you need to know. So it depends on the purpose behind that question.
Anything else there, bud?
And with that, we just kind of went silent there. So we have to edit that part out. So,
dead air.
Is there any data as to what is the best day and time to send emails? I'm going to speak to emails here really, really briefly and kind of piggyback onto what Tim said on emails. If you're emailing based on the data that we're providing, I would send an initial email from a junk type of email address first. The last thing you want is to send 100 emails out and 50 bounce back, which I'm not saying is going to happen, but 50 bounce back and your email provider think that you're a spammer that is getting bad data. So I would test those emails from an email address that you don't mind getting flagged. Once you've identified the best emails that are getting opened up and you have some data there, I like to send my emails out at about 7 o'clock in the morning. That seems to be the time when some people might be laying in bed or they're eating breakfast. They're doing things where they haven't gotten along with their day and they're more likely to open up emails. That's not based on hard data. That's a subjective opinion that I'm offering.
Bruce, I want to comment on that too. Chuck just posted a great link from Kajabi. It says best day and time to send your email marketing campaigns. We haven't read that, and it's just the first thing that popped up in Google. I just want to point one thing out that is interesting about that. You know, we send notifications out in regard to this call. We send them out every week before the call. And initially, we were sending them out early in the day and all that sort of stuff. And we modified our mailing time to do it much, much closer to the actual time that we began the calls. And it has dramatically increased the number of you folks who are able to join us because we're reminding you around the right time, you pick it up. We think that's what ends up happening is you're seeing it right during your lunch period. You're seeing it pop up top of your list and you get on because we have a lot of people that come on maybe 10, 15 minutes after the call starts. So we're looking at that. The one thing I was going to say is if in fact you are going to take office time at a particular time and you're going to be making outbound calls and you want to be following up on an email, it'd be reasonably good idea to try to move those calls around a period of time or move your email time around the period of time that you're going to be making those calls, precede them by about a half an hour, and then start making the calls that you're following up on the email that you sent out. That's a good way to do it. The only other thing I'd comment in regard to what Bruce just said, when we say a junk email address, that doesn't mean that, for example, if you own the domain xyz.com and your name is Bill at xyz.com, making another one that's Sally at xyz.com, that'll get your whole domain blocked. You want to have something that has no connection with you at all. Pick an Outlook address, go get a Yahoo address, get something that, you know, it doesn't really matter. And then once you've done it one time, discard the email because it won't do you any good. It'll be blocked elsewhere. And assume that's what's going to happen if you want to do that. The other way to do it is to take an email list. And there are a number of services that will do that job for you. And it's not very expensive. For like a nickel an email, they'll validate your email for you. And you can look it up on Google email validation services and you can find that.
Yep. All right. Perfect. Any other questions that we had? We're getting up here toward the end. I know Tim wanted to comment on our process today, but before we do, did anyone else have anything?
I think it's just important that one of the questions was, what's the phone number to get signed up? And that's 844-532-3369.
And keep in mind, guys, that we don't only provide probate leads. If you want pre-probate or divorce leads as well, divorce is in a soft launch right now, so it's not available in every county. But if you want to be on that list or want to check your county for those leads as well, let us know.
Elijah, we've done this for 383 calls. We've had many interviews. You are probably the most generous with both your time and your money. So we can't, and you gave some great nuggets, man. We can't tell you how much we appreciate it. That same approach you show to providing value for your customers, you absolutely do that with everyone you come in contact with. And that's why you're so successful. So can't tell you how much we appreciate you. We appreciate everyone that took the time to be here today. Particularly thank not only Elijah, but everybody who actively asked questions and participated. And I want to challenge each of you, as I always do, take one great nugget, one idea that inspired you on this call, go out and put it into practice, and please come back same time next week and share your results with the group. Have a great week, everybody. Talk to you next Thursday. Take care.